Hello and welcome to the Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast. If you're joining us on the stream tonight, hello, wave, everyone, wave.
Hi,
wave.
Handies.
That's why they're here. Wave, Russ, wave. Damn you!
Fixing my microphone.
Yeah, well, you need to wave first. We've got
We can
loyal
hear you,
fans. We've
Russ,
got
it's
handies. Go on, Russ. Give the handies a wave.
Russ.
There we go.
Do it nice.
It's done. The handies are satisfied.
You'd be more enthusiastic if there was a good old British plug there, wouldn't you? You'd be really,
Love that
really happy
shit.
about that.
Yeah, he loves plugs.
So we are going to be continuing our Legions, Warhammer 40k Legions. This is part 2 of the epic. Well, what do you call it when it's just 2? Doubleology, duology,
Duology.
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 There you go. Yeah, the duology.
But
Uh,
twoology
and-
makes more
or
sense, really, doesn't
diarchy.
it?
Yes, or diarchy. Yes, that's a great one. So that's what we're going to be doing. Where the guys who know more about Warhammer 40k are going to be asking me whether I think a legion is a loyalist or a traitor legion, and then
Filthy heretic.
they will do some talking about that. I will sit there going, "This is really cool. I didn't know any of this shit," and that's it. That's basically the format of the show. Let's do the introductions. Russ, hello.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Dan, hello.
Hello, hand jobs. How you all doing?
No, not hand jobs, just handies.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, handies. Handies, everyone.
Hello,
Yeah.
Spunk Rags.
Yeah. Oh dear. Hi Duncan.
Hello.
And it's hello to
Hi,
all,
Handies.
and hello to all
I was
the
really
handies.
just talking to you three there.
Yes. With the... and hello from me, Tom, and hello to all the handies. Thank you for watching. If you're listening to us, by the way, if you're listening to us on the actual podcast, like on one of the podcatchers, thank you very much. Appreciate it. You're definitely in the majority, but why not use your eyes and watch the stream? That's what I always want to know. That's what I want to know.
What? So the majority being we get 5 watchers and 10 listeners.
No, we
right,
get
Duncan.
hundreds. We get hundreds of listeners. Hundreds,
Sometimes when I put them up.
hundreds upon.
They get watched on YouTube. It's just, people sad enough to actually watch us live.
Yeah, I'm worried that at times the views might just be me.
They're missing out if they're not watching us live, though.
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah, 'cause
who knows what could happen.
And all the cultural zeitgeist have taken you over. If you watch us a week later and then you're coming to work with all these quips, people are like, I've heard it, mate. I've already seen it.
Exactly. Yeah, the 3 or 4 people on the planet. But that's the point as well. We are live globally. Like right now, we are. If anyone
Live in Japan.
really wants to, if we'd love it if more. Come on, watch the stream. It'd be great. Come on.
Who are you talking to?
I don't know. Come on, more people. Tell your friends. Send them a link to the page, and let's get them all watching. Because I'm going to be, listening to some Legion stuff. Anyway, come on, let's go. Let's do this. Let's get our Legions on.
What happened there?
It's just gone wrong, hasn't it?
It has. It has.
It's going to plaintively beg
well,
people for a while.
This is all seamless. This is entertainment. Like I am out here every week busting my ass.
Who are you mad at, Tom?
with new
Busting a
material.
nut. You're busting
Anyway.
a nut all over this podcast.
I mean, the underside of my desk looks like a medieval table covered with candle wax.
You understand my desk?
I
Load of
am
paints.
really enjoying the way that Duncan's blur filter doesn't work on the gap between his headphones and his head.
I
So
know,
it's
it's
like
good,
he's
isn't
got a
it?
little
That's
window
great.
into a dream world behind his ears.
Yeah,
I
see,
love it.
late-
In that small gap, you just saw like little bits of dildo.
Little bit of
I mean, that's Bowser's
Bits of
castle,
dildo.
so I've got to go and save Princess Peach
with a little bit of
Excellent.
with a little bit of dildo.
Anyway,
Anyway, what's the next Legion?
we're on to the 11th Legion, guys, and drum roll.
They
There's
don't
no
exist
name.
They
anymore.
don't exist. Yeah,
Oh,
they're gone.
so what happened to them?
They were the first traitors.
Yeah, no one really knows.
They're another one where there's like no official anything about them. They're a mystery. So there's 2 legions that were erased from history.
So do we
Second and
know
11th.
anything about like colours and stuff, or can you literally paint someone up in whatever colour and say that these are
So
11th Legion?
nowadays you can't because they don't exist.
Oh, I see.
I mean, you could if you wanted to, but like if you rocked up at an official tournament, some very officious little prick would tell you that you weren't allowed to use them because of that.
Guys, I brought the 11th Legion, the Spunk Chambers. So
Chambers.
let's go.
They're just bloated tubs of spunk. Yeah, there's a reason we don't let people make up their own legions anymore.
They're all in like the Gravis armor, like this one here.
This is the 11th Legion, led by Sir Cox 69.
So the
420,
original idea
420.
was, if you wanted to make up your own legion,
Yeah.
then
This is
you
the
could
this
do
is
that.
the
And then
rocking Bidens.
because of people like you, they also stopped doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. That all seems quite fair.
So yeah, they don't exist.
Okay.
So who is next?
We're on to
Oh, so I guess that they were traitors.
We don't know.
okay, and as a result, Lehman Russ probably assassinated, just took the Spaceballs and killed them all, which is
Fine.
the rumor.
But they might not have been There might have been like something wrong with their genetics or something like that. You know, we don't know anything about them or what happened to them.
It could have also easily been the Dark Angels, because if you really want to eradicate someone from history, that was who.
Yeah, true. Number 12 then. World Eaters.
Also known as the Warhounds.
They were the Warhounds. They became
They were the
World
Warhounds.
Eaters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that any group of people who call themselves the World Eaters have anything but nefarious. No, okay, I can't even just keep the charade up. Like I know that the World Eaters are like Chaos poster boys, right?
I love the World Eaters so much.
Yeah.
They are my favorite legion.
I'm going to say traitors.
There's not much ambiguity about these ones, is there?
You reckon this guy is a traitor?
Angry Ron.
Angry Ron, Angron. Yeah.
So,
Like-
so was he a person? Was he a
well,
man?
yeah.
Was
Yeah,
a
so
human?
he became a demon Primarch.
So he's a Primarch.
Yeah. Well, he was
Yes,
a
he
Primarch.
was-
He was their Primarch. of the
He was
World
never a
Eaters,
regular human.
Yeah.
He was a Primarch, but
Yeah.
still like he looked like a human. He was just maybe about 12 foot tall, insanely strong, genius level. Like they were all way, even though he was considered like probably the most barbarically stupid one, they were all sort of way above humans in any way you could imagine. So
I mean, he was
Also,
still beaten.
like
and also
tactical
he was-
genius, really smart.
Also,
He wasn't a
he was
tactical
really
genius.
He
Psychically
wasn't.
strong,
No, he
all that
was.
sort of
He
stuff.
just ran in. But like his so every Primarch's got like a small chunk of the Emperor. Angron's chunk was empathy,
Oh,
and then they sent him to the one planet that had zero empathy.
And then
So-
they drove something called the Butcher's Nails in, which totally removed it. Sorry.
Yeah, so the Butcher's Nails, how they work are basically he tried to free like it's a gladiator planet. Everyone on this planet is basically a gladiator or watching gladiators,
Yeah.
not the TV show with Jet. But like
That
Well,
would have been
it's,
a
Saber.
real
It's Saber
different
So-
route for Angron if he'd
Yeah.
been in spandex knocking somebody off a small platform with a giant cotton wool ball.
I mean, he just killed them still. Angron, he refused to fight his friends, basically. So they drove these things into his head called the Butcher's Nails. And how they work are they completely suppress any other emotion except for anger. And if you don't feel angry, it's gonna hurt you.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So as a result, he became pretty angry. He then led the rebellion of like the slaves and the gladiators. And he was preparing for his final fight with like the higher classes of the planet when Daddy beamed him onto the ship and let everyone else die, basically.
So he'd pretty much taken over the planet,
Yeah.
and it was like it was the eve of the final battle. So it's him and all his gladiator mates who are the only people he's ever loved,
Yeah.
versus like the posh pricks who
Yeah.
have sort of got an army together and are going to sweep in and destroy them in the morning.
And
So I
as a
think
result,
he's pretty resigned to dying at that point, but he's going to die with his friends in battle.
from then on, all Angrons wanted to do is die. Like, it's really sad. So, like, he, as a result, I say, empathy is his main thing. So he's constantly feeling like this massive amount of anger. And, like, he then drove Butcher's Nails into all of his legion as well. So they all became crazy. And
Where did he
Khorne
find
just
these
seemed like
Butcher's
a
Nails?
natural stopping point for the World Eaters.
Where did he find
They're-
these butcher's nails?
For his
They're-
planet,
They just made them.
They're based on an ancient Dark
Yeah.
Age of technology torture thing.
Yeah.
And he was turned. Lorgar cared for him. Lorgar did.
Bullshit. fucking bullshit. No, Lorgar didn't care for him. He turned him into a demon Primarch, something he
To
never
save
ever wanted to
his
be.
life.
He
But
wanted to die.
He didn't want to be saved, did he? So
He
yeah,
didn't want
he
to be
was
saved. And as
he was a
result,
Primarch guy. He had these things put in his head that, yeah, basically just meant that the only time you couldn't feel pain was when you were feeling anger, and not just like basically when you were killing somebody was the only time you could feel any sort of sense of relief at all.
So
He's had his ass handed to him a few times as well.
he has, but he doesn't mind. So like his main thing is he's constantly throwing himself into battle to get killed, basically, because it means he has a few seconds in between being resurrected as Angron again.
So now,
where he gets
now that
something-
he's a demon,
Yeah.
being killed is just sort of a minor inconvenience.
Yeah.
He gets killed quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then is it like 8 days later he gets resurrected or something?
Yeah. Yes, for some reason the Angron couldn't be bothered to help Angron. Sorry, the Emperor couldn't be bothered to help Angron's mates in the final battle when he had done a lot more for the other Primarchs. He didn't really. He needed a blunt instrument, and that's what Angron was. So from then on, Angron obviously turned traitor because he's never really liked the Emperor.
I've kind of always read it as well that like the Emperor could have got the nails out of him if he'd wanted to, but chose not to.
Yeah, the nails made him an efficient killer, like sending this like unit, this legion of like frothing maniacs down to a planet was terrifying. So it was an effective weapon. They do the job that other legions wouldn't do, basically, because they just run in and kill everything.
I thought when they did start considering trying to remove the nails, it was found that because of the way that they interacted with the Primarch's body, they essentially fused in, and that's why they can remove it. Because if they tried to remove it,
Yeah,
it
like
would
I
kill
thought
them
that's what
outright.
they told him.
The Emperor could have done it because like he can do fucking anything.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he could have, but he chose not to, and was like they knew it was going to kill him if he hadn't turned into a demon. He would have been killed by the nails at some point anyway. And I think the Emperor was just like, yeah, that about works out then. I'll use him for what I need to, and then he'll die and he won't be a problem.
Question.
Yeah.
Where do they get their vehicles from? Do they have factories?
Who? So Space Marines in general?
No, the Rhino. So like Chaos, the World Eaters.
Yeah.
How do they build rhinos?
So a lot of so if you think that the warp time moves differently, so a lot of the time they're still using the stuff from the Horus Heresy because it's only been a few hundred years to them rather than 10,000 years.
So
That's so cool.
Space Marines are probably immortal if any of them survived long enough to find out, because they all get killed in battle eventually.
There's only one non-Primarch that was there during the Horus Heresy, and that's Bjorn the Fell-Handed, wasn't it? And he's a Dreadnought. So
there's no loyalist Space Marines who are around 10,000 years ago anymore. But if they're just sat quietly not fighting, there probably would be, but they don't do that.
I'm going to get an actually here because you learn in Lion, Son of the Forest that they do age. They age slowly, but they age.
But like
none
of them have ever died of natural causes.
No, but there is one that's several. I mean, obviously there's Dante who just keeps on going.
Wants to die. Bless him.
Again, wants to die.
But anyway, so there's like Chaos Space Marines. Some of them are people that were fighting in the battles at the Heresy, but for them it hasn't been 10,000 years because they've been living in this timey-wimey Jeremy Bearimy stuff of the Imperium, of the Empyreum, which is what they call the realm of chaos. But as I've often wondered this, like how do they get there if they're just a horde of screaming maniacs? How do they get who does their admin? You know, so they take a lot of stuff without asking very politely.
They have humans,
and there are sort of planets and people that are aligned to chaos who aren't screaming maniac demons. Some of them are just regular guys. They're less interesting, so you don't see them as much. But there are just normal people, probably living perfectly normal, happy lives, going to work, coming home, having a family, watching TV, but they're basically in service of chaos. Because ultimately,
let's face it,
there's not that much difference between the two.
let's face it, like the HR department of the Administorium is not. You would never tell whether that was a chaos level or not,
No.
because they're going to be as
Yeah.
evil as the same. So there's no difference.
Yeah.
So they could just come in and pilfer that, and the people working there would not be able to tell whether they're working for Khorne or for the Imperium.
Couple of standouts for Khorne though. Latara Sarin was the captain. She was the captain of the World Eater's flagship, and Space Marines were scared of her. World Eater Space Marines were scared of her because she kept pulling guns on them, basically. So as a result, she was the kind of person that would get shit done for the World Eaters. And they have people like that, and it's not just constant like kill, maim, burn. Sometimes they're like, we could use some more weapons, so we could go do that as well.
There is
yeah.
the theory of what's his name? You can get him in the Horus Heresy game set, who resurrected the Warhounds, and so he didn't go traitor because he didn't like the Butcher's Nails, didn't like the way it went. But the thought is that he is, because he was one of the first Terror World Eaters.
Yeah.
The thought is he might actually be one of the remaining Thunder Warriors. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he's cool.
But
He's
yeah,
a lovely
so
mini.
the other thing is, as Dan said, there's Dark Mechanicus who just arm Space Marines. So they've got their own like factory lines, and they'll arm the Space Marines.
Yeah.
So they'll just give the World Eaters the weapons they need. The other side of it is Khorne won't let the weapons degrade because Khorne loves weapons.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of the normal rules do not apply as well. Like, they might be perfectly fine to go a couple of 100 years with no food in the Eye of Terror because just the rules don't apply.
Can I talk about my favourite boy?
Yeah.
This guy here. This is Khan the Betrayer. Okay. He is one of the most skilled warriors from the Horus Heresy. He's called the Betrayer, I believe. I haven't got that far into it. He's called the Betrayer because I believe he was told to basically kill a load of his own people to prove himself to Khorne, and he did it. But he is also, one of my favourite things about him is he looks like a lunatic, but he's super calm. So like there is this great battle between him and Erebus, and let me just say now, fuck Erebus, where he just, look it up, it's brilliant, where he's basically finds out that Erebus killed one of his mates, and he just gets into this fight with him that he was never going to lose because he's Khan the Betrayer. He is so cool. Game-wise, he's okay. He's not like on tabletop, he's okay. But like as a character, I absolutely love Khan the Betrayer. A lot of the major god-based Space Marine, like Chaos chapters, the second guy is usually more interesting than the Primarch. So Khan's more interesting than Angron, in my opinion. But yeah. So yeah. And one last person, Lord Invocatus rides a giant mechanical bull that spouts fire from its feet, and it flies through the air.
Let's have a look at this dude. Gallery.
Lord Invocatus. Lord in Potatoes.
Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at Khan.
Khan's great.
That is a badass model.
The other thing that
cool.
they do get is demon engines. So usually they steal or they conjure up a demon engine, which is like enslaving a demon in a machine.
That's less so for the World Eaters. They've got things like the Mauler Fiends, I suppose. But like it's with the World Eaters, it's more about like we're going to get into combat quickly and it's going to be bloody, and that's their biggest concern.
Kill,
shooting isn't
burn.
Yeah, shooting isn't really. It's frowned upon by the World Eaters.
It really is. Blood for the blood god, Tom. Skulls for the skull throne. Yeah.
Bones for the bone tithe.
There you go. Bones for the bone tithe.
Awesome. So that was quite a long time we spent on the Chaos.
I was sorry. I was going to because I love the World
No.
Eaters.
I mean, from what I can gather, they are a key. They're almost like one of the sort of like hero legions.
Yeah, not like the next one we're going to talk about.
Fucking blueberries.
Yeah, the Ultramarines.
Known as the Warborn.
Let's just talk. That's just what they were called before they found their Primarch.
And I like the previous names sometimes, apart from Warborn, which is
Primarch. Raboti Gilliman.
How do you actually pronounce it?
Rabute
Gilliman. Because I was just calling Robo in my head.
Robo Guilliman, yeah.
Ultramarines. Robot Guilliman.
They're just your standard Space Marine. That's
It's
the best
who
way
you
to describe
painted.
it.
Yeah, the blueberries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they get a lot of hate. I think it's unfair because I actually think they're quite cool. But, like...
But Gilliman can't win a fight.
No, but none of them can.
I mean, Guilliman can't win a fight.
He lost quite a few fights.
He beat Lorgar.
You could beat Lorgar.
I'm just saying, Guilliman went
All the
psycho
Primarch
on Lorgar.
fights have to end with them being dragged apart by like a volcano erupting or something,
Didn't he
and
beat
then both
Angron? Isn't
going,
he one-
I'll
isn't he
get
one
you
of the-
next time."
Isn't he one of the 6 Primarchs that beat Angron as well?
I don't know, actually.
Primarchs that beat
How
Angron.
do people get these models looking so? They look like they've been paint. They look like they're like oil paintings.
Yeah,
Have you looked
some
up
of
a
them are insane.
Guilliman then, have you? The Guilliman model.
Philin really likes the Gilliman model because
Right.
it is beautiful. And in the Space Marines Codex, he always goes, "That's me." Like,
The
No.
Ultramarines are kind of like your standard Space Marines, but also Guilliman was the guy who put together the Codex Astartes. And what that means is that after the Horus Heresy, they didn't want massive upright. I think I mentioned it when talking about the Black Templars last time.
Yeah, so effectively sort
Yeah.
of split and diluted things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I think he had the most
set the
troops.
rule that a chapter, so a group of Space Marines could only ever be 1,000 people, which is tiny compared to what they were before.
Yeah.
So a legion could have any number,
Yeah.
and so
And
they've gone
though
from
he
having
get-
like thousands and thousands and thousands to you've got 1,000, and then you have to
Mm-hmm.
split the rest off and call them something else and have somebody else in charge.
So the
And the
Horus
Legion-
Heresy, for example, is thousands of Space Marines fight, like hundreds of
Yeah,
thousands.
Hundreds of
thousands.
thousands, yeah.
Interestingly, the Ultramarines at the time of the Horus Heresy had the most Space Marines. They had an estimated 250,000. 250 to actually potentially 500,000 Space Marines. They were the largest legion. And so they got, you get more chapters associated with Ultramarines, like the Sons of Macragge and
But they also didn't play that big a part in. Well, they played a big part in the Heresy, but they weren't in the big final battle because Horus made sure that a bunch of them were sort of stuck on the other side of the galaxy doing other shit and couldn't come and help.
Yeah, with the most boring part of the Horus Heresy. The whole, like, Secondus bit.
So yeah, the Ultramarines get a lot of shit because, like, you get the impression that Guilliman really just wants to sort of write tax codes and talk about civics.
It's worth mentioning Guilliman is back in 40k as well. He's one of the few Primarchs that's available.
Yeah, he's still
now
alive.
got
He's
ultra
been sort of
depression.
brought back.
He does have
he's,
ultra depression.
Yeah, so his sort of archetype is that he is a statesman. So instead of being like a warrior, except he'd kick your ass, but he's actually he would be a very good like head of state. So like when they all got scattered off and he grew up not knowing who he was, most of them by the time the Emperor found them had taken over the planet they lived on. He was in charge of a civilization of like 500 planets and a whole section of space, and he was running
like
the
a-
whole show, like his
as
own
like a-
little empire.
The equivalent of like a 20-year-old kind of thing. Like it's
So that's
So,
his
like,
like natural
yeah.
thing. So he's very good at like putting in systems in place, and he's probably a fairly nice guy. If you had to have one of them be in charge of where you lived, they wouldn't be a bad shout.
and he's got a hot
Don't do it, Duncan.
No, he
don't do
hasn't.
it.
At one point in the
doesn't.
story, he interacts with a female alien, and a certain type of Warhammer 40,000 fan liked to draw pictures of them shagging. And
Basically, yeah.
and then being
there really are parts of the fandom for this thing that you don't want to touch with a very long pole.
Yunari as his Eldari waifu is not something you want to search in your Google, Tom.
it just comes over my Facebook. I haven't even searched for it. But,
Like he's
I
encased
had
in
to do it.
armor that he can't leave, otherwise he'll die.
He can
Yeah.
take it off. It hurts him, but he can take it off.
Who's this? Reboot
Yeah.
Guilliman.
Yeah, so they bring him back because he was mortally wounded after a fight with I
Full
can't
grip.
remember.
It's
Fulgrim,
Fulgrim,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, he's been in stasis for like 8,000 years or something. So he knocks around for a bit after the heresy. He gets in a fight with Demon Fulgrim, who slices his throat with a poisoned blade. Before he can die, they get him back to the spaceship and stick him in a stasis field. And they haven't been able to do anything with him since. So he's literally sat there in a stasis field like fucking Lister for thousands and thousands of years. Until they needed to advance the plot a bit. So somebody trundles up with a magic suit of armour and he gets brought back to life. But
It was
like the only way he can
Crusade.
come back to life is if he dies first. And then he gets brought back from dead by some Eldar fuckery. So they sort of take him out of the stasis field, let him die, and then they put this suit of armor on him that brings him back to life. So he's back and kicking ass now.
He's in charge of the Imperium, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I have to ask. Oh, sorry.
He basically comes in, takes charge, goes, what the fuck? He doesn't like all. Current theme is any Primarch coming back really hates what the Imperium's become, but then realizes they have to see it through, and like the Lion really hates Rabute as well.
They don't like
and
each other.
No, but he's
they came to
then when
blows,
he
didn't they, nearly. So.
but even when the Lion hears that it's Rabute, he's absolutely thrilled because he's like, I'm not alone. I've got a brother. So there's that. But he kills some of the High Council of Terror try to rebel, and he just goes, no, kills them. He's pretty ruthless, but he is the best at organizing. He was the best campaign tactician. He wasn't necessarily always the best battle tactician, but he could do the long picture of all the logistics, so he could sort out, and that's why they brought him back, because of the 13th Black Crusade.
Yeah, after the fall of Cadia. So when Cadia fell, the the Eye of Terror went bonkers, basically, and split the entire galaxy in two. So as a result, they needed someone to lead things.
The planet broke before the guard did.
Yes, well done, Tom. I'm proud of you. You did. And so, like,
thump coming from underneath Dan's desk there.
You know it. It's just paint.
It's all those paints go everywhere.
So they decided to bring Guilliman back, and they found a way of doing it. And it was one of those ones where it's like Guilliman comes back, and immediately in front of him is Celestine. Saint Celestine was there, wasn't she? And he's like, "That's a fucking demon. What is going on here? We need to kill that." And like immediately, like, "Oh, we got some things to talk to you about. What about? You know how like your whole thing was like you didn't want your dad worshipped as a god? Yes, we've burnt down all of Lorgar's churches for that. Yes, well, we worship him as a god in quite a big way, to the point where if people don't worship him as a god, we'll probably kill them. Oh, that's weird. That's not good. How bad is everything else? Not great. The universe has been split in, the galaxy's been split in two as well. So if you could just come and sort all this out, that would be really, really handy.
I was going to say, this is the bit for me, isn't it? Because he knows. He was there.
Yeah.
So he actually knows what the Emperor was all about. And from what I can gather from my reading, the Emperor didn't want to be seen as a god. He didn't want to run the world like that. He wanted to spread and encourage humanity's like rising up and
his thing was that it should be like rational thought should be what shape. But then also, I mean, he didn't go about it in the best way. He was also a sort of a monomaniacal dictator who didn't tell anyone what he was up to and did loads of secret shenanigans, and also arguably was a god.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah,
that was always a bit of an ish.
But this is the thing.
Yeah, like so he like dismantled all religions. He thought religion was like the ultimate poison to humanity's advancement. He literally disbanded every religion. Personally, went and destroyed the last like temple on the planet. And you did not worship the Emperor. It was a crime to worship him.
We'll get to that.
Fast forward 10,000 years, very much the other way around.
Oh yeah, so that's the point, isn't it? At some point over those 10,000 years, someone has twisted that.
Well, so the end of the Horus Heresy series of books deals with the beginning of like the cult of starting to see the Emperor as a god, and like some of the stuff he does as well doesn't exactly dissuade people of that notion. So
I guess,
and like it's sort of acts of faith that kind of like faith in the Emperor, which you could argue is like psychic stuff, but that stuff kind of swings what happens.
Also, maybe don't turn up with a giant halo and gold armor as well.
Yeah, like look at the way.
I was also going to say, like, if you're, I mean, you know, imagine you're humanity's beacon in the warp. Like, you are the only way through which they can navigate across the empire, and you know, you're effectively incarcerated and interred in a golden throne, a massive, great big golden throne that keeps you alive while providing this beacon of light in the warp. It is kind of messianic, like, you know, it is you know.
Yeah, there's some good. So he's got a mate called Malcador, who's like his number 2 guy, and there's some good bits in the books where he's trying to like, it's like, well, you know, he's only wearing the golden armor because it's the most like psychically conductive material. It's not about how it looks. But then he's also like, the Emperor is very aware of how he appears and the effect that can have, because he can basically choose how he looks. You know, so some, you know, he's meant to have been alive throughout the entirety of human history, taking on different personas, being different people, you know, being, sometimes he's been like a king or a prime minister or a president or a leader, other times he's been like a scientist or an actor or whatever, or sometimes he's just some guy. But for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, he's been sort of shaping humanity's path until he finally decides it's time to step up and go, you know what, you've all fucked up, I'm in charge now.
This is true. Dan says Emperor god worship began before the Horus Heresy even started. I mean, it's in the books as well.
Yeah.
Like, you could see, like, the Imperial, what's it fucking called?
The Imperial sexes.
Well, the Imperial cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see that kind of like rising throughout the Horus Heresy books.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the very fact that he's had to say, no, don't worship me as a god, that you're not allowed to do that. You wouldn't have to say that if that wasn't something that was happening.
No. We ready to move on from
Ultramarines.
Yeah. Fuck the Ultramarines.
Bit dull.
Loyal.
A bit dull.
They're very loyal, yeah.
Yeah.
There are some cool ones. So like the guy in the Space Marine video game is an Ultramarine, isn't he? Captain Titus.
Yeah. Marnius Calgar lost both his arms to Tyranids, so had them replaced with power fists with big guns on the bottom.
He lost both his legs as well, didn't he?
Yeah. He's like the chapter master of the Ultramarines. He's kind of interesting.
There's what's his name? Is it Sicarius?
Sicarius is pretty interesting as well. Yeah.
I am, and now he's really depressed.
The closest analogy is think Roman Empire, and then you've got the Ultramarines.
Okay.
Yeah, they have lots of like laurel wreaths and Latin inscriptions and stuff. And
I can see even just on Reboot Guilliman's armor, there's all sorts of stuff going on.
Some have like Roman centurion head crests, don't they?
Yeah. Dan says also possibly the main reason the Emperor wanted to enforce atheism was to weaken chaos. Yeah, this is also true, because he was the only person that knew about chaos, pretty much, wasn't he, at that point? Apart from, I think Magnus did as well, didn't he? But we'll get onto that in a bit.
He knew about like the warp and stuff, but he didn't necessarily know about chaos. So yeah, he was like, guys, if we all start worshipping shit, bad things can happen. But he didn't actually tell anyone why he didn't want them to look into this sort of stuff.
Well, then he did tell Horus.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Which was kind of a mistake.
Yeah, that worked out great.
We'll get to Magnus in a bit. So, next up, the 13th Legion. The Death Guard.
No, 14th Legion.
14th Legion. 12, 13. Yeah, 14th Legion. Good lord, of course, because it's a multiple of 7, which is important. But I'm not going to say why. Death Guard, their Primarch's called Mortarion. They are resilient. That's the nicest way I can put this. They are incredibly resilient, really tanky. They get put in jobs where it's believed that like no one else, like they need to just fortify something or just keep an enemy busy. Basically, Death Guard are slow moving, tanky, and they just gradually take down the enemy.
Yeah, they'll just like grind it out. They're really good at like war of attrition type stuff.
And that you usually put in the most toxic, difficult environments because their home planet.
The planet they come from is like a polluted,
barbarous.
toxic, poisonous smog. So they're very like resilient in that sense as well. But they're also like very mentally resilient, and the way they fight is just like grinding you down for years if necessary, until they win.
Yep.
Mortarion known for using a scythe.
Yep.
He is kind of meant to be the embodiment of the Grim Reaper kind of thing.
But I'm going to say they're loyal.
Are you now?
Yes.
You would be wrong, Tom. They are they worship Nurgle. Thanks to some dick called Typhus. Was he Typhus before or was he Typhus after? I can never remember.
I think I
he was Typharian or something like that.
It's
before. He wasn't
he changed
Typhon always.
He has like
changed his name.
Nurgly name.
Typhon.
Yeah.
Typhon, that was it.
Typhon and became Typhus. Yeah. So essentially, he sold everyone out.
But he's having the best time.
He's having a great time.
He's 100% the happiest. Mortarion is. Everyone hates Mortarion.
Mortarion is a dick, to be fair, as well.
So these are the guys that are dedicated to the Chaos God Nurgle. So not all the traitor legions are specific to a god.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys are. They are Nurgle, who's the god of like
pestilence,
death, disease, pestilence, decay, but then also he's the god of like rebirth and new life and fertility. So he's kind of like the god of entropy and things turning into other things and becoming new life.
Papa Nurgle loves you.
He is the most caring.
Mm-hmm. So what's happened to them is that they've ended up. So they're still very resilient, but they're also constantly riddled with horrific diseases. You do not want to listen to any of the audiobooks of anything involving the Death Guard because there's only so much like exposed entrails and walking down hallways lined with eyeballs that cry pus at you as you walk past that you can really take of a morning.
There's,
it gets
they're a bit like
so
Mr.
disgusting.
Burns. They've got everything, so they can't fit through the door at the same time. So they actually don't feel any kind of pain because of it, which makes them more resilient. So essentially, when Typhon sold them to Nurgle, sold them out to Nurgle, Mortarion then had to make a deal to say, look, I don't want my Legion feeling this kind of pain. And as a result, they don't feel pain. They're perfectly happy being these stink monsters that they are now.
So Mortarion sort of hates it, doesn't he? He wasn't very happy about any of this.
And he hates Typhus. Those two do not get on. Because Typhus is a bit of a dick.
And the main thing is that Typhus is a psyker, and Mortarion hates psykers, but was like, no, but you're all right. And then the decree went out, no psykers.
Yeah.
And Typhus was like, what? But I'm... And Mortarion, like, you just can't use your powers. But you're cool. You're fine. And Typhus was very upset because he couldn't be himself.
Yeah.
And that's all he wanted. And so he tricked everyone to go into the Eye of Terror, and that's that.
In terms of models, you can do a really good job. I think I like the ones that look rusty rather than pussy, if that makes any sense. It's like you can make them look really rusty, and I think that looks really cool. Like the armor's like really like I can rusted onto them. Yeah.
In terms of like modern day, like they sort of they're big into like sort of poisons, diseases, like demonic psychic diseases and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So like
the idea is just being near them is dangerous.
They don't necessarily even bother fighting you that much.
Yeah.
Like if you are somewhere where they are, you're going to get like swarms of mosquitoes and flies that come through and spread horrific diseases. Everyone's going to be vomiting and shitting themselves all over the place, and you're going to but you lose far more people to sort of disease and corruption like that than you do to actual fighting.
Long game.
And then like you get near them, and like your weapon starts rusting apart in your hands, and all your vehicles start falling apart, and just everything goes shitty.
Everything smells like arseholes as well.
Yeah. Constant arseholes.
Yeah.
And Mortarion only went traitor because He's just upset that the Emperor killed his foster dad.
Yeah, and he
Because
went
he wants
traitor
to be
because
the
he
one
didn't
to
have a
kill him,
choice
didn't
as well.
Papa.
Yeah, okay. Primarchs, just all of them daddy issues. Just all
Yeah.
of them.
Well, they've been abandoned, right?
Not the next Legion, though. That's the Thousand Sons. Magnus has no daddy issues at all.
Mm-hmm.
Magnus the Red is their Primarch. They are like sorcerers. That's their big thing. Like they are all about.
What are they
like,
called?
The Thousand Sons.
Sons.
Yeah.
They've got to be loyal.
Why are they called? Isn't it because there were just 1,000 of them when
Yes, 1,000 of them
when
left,
Magnus rocked up to take them? Yeah, so
they had a major flaw.
they're a very Magnus is quite an interesting Primarch because he's really into he's a scholar more than anything else.
Massive nerd.
He's a huge nerd.
Old
Yeah,
nerd.
literally.
He gets
He's
bullied by all his brothers.
15 foot tall. Best hair, arguably. I mean, it's closer on thing.
Whoa!
Him, Fulgrim and Sanguinius.
Sanguinius, dude. And Fulgrim. Fulgrim's best hair.
I don't know. I think Magnus has got the best hair. Best nipples.
He's got best nipples.
Best nipples.
What? Best nipples?
Look up the model, Tom.
If you look up Magnus artwork, he's always got massive horns poking out of his nipples or something. It's based on there was one picture of him by John Blanche, like back in the late 80s or something, where he had these massive nipple horns, and they've become like a real fixture of his design.
He's only got one eye because he had to sell. He had to sell his other eye. Not sell. He had to give up his other eye to save the rest of his legion. I won't say what. You've already said that you reckon they're loyal, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're wrong. That they are traitors.
They're traitors.
Yeah, and the argument is that Magnus did nothing wrong. That is bullshit.
No, it's not. He really did do nothing, but he got doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and you can defeat them with a powerful vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, that's true.
So
most of it.
Yeah, these guys. So they're all psychers. The whole lot of Space Marines. Magnus is an incredibly powerful psyker. The problem is, Daddy Emperor didn't tell him about the dangerous stuff in the warp. So as far as Magnus is aware, the warp is like this source of psychic power and knowledge, and it lets him do these incredible things. He's not aware of all the dangerous things lurking in there. And the Emperor just goes, you know all that psychic stuff that's the entire reason for your being? Yeah, you got to knock all that off. Don't do that anymore. Just be like a regular guy, which he doesn't like very much. But he sort of, he does like curtail it a bit. But then he gets wind of what's going on with the heresy. He hears about Horus and he's like, holy shit, I got to tell my dad.
He has a vision.
And the only way that he can think of to do this is by psychically projecting himself across the galaxy to pop up in the throne room on Earth and go, fucking hell, Dad, Horus has proper throne won. Unfortunately, in doing so, when he charges through the webway and sort of psychically pops up in the throne room, he sort of smashes through everything that the Emperor's spent the last couple of 100 years working on that was meant to free humanity from the need to ever go in near the warp ever again, and was going to basically be the entire basis for the Emperor's plans for humanity for the next couple of 1,000 years. He fucks that all
called?
up.
Is that the webway?
Yeah, it's a way that basically it was a way that you'd be able to have faster than light travel without having to fuck around with the warp, so you wouldn't have to expose yourself to it and all the dangers that it entails.
The thing is,
he basically knocks the doors down and lets a horde of thousands of screaming fucking demons into the throne room. All the custodians get massacred. It's a right fucking shit show, and Daddy Emperors is not best pleased by all this.
Yeah, it also means the Emperor from then on has to sit on the throne the whole time. Because
the fact that he did this is because the Golden Throne's always been there, but he used it as and when he needed to.
Yeah.
He didn't actually have to be physically sat on it 24/7. He could be on the other side of the galaxy and still be powering the Astronomicon, the homing signal. So he didn't have to sit all the time. Now he has to literally sit, he's like Hodoring the demons. He's literally psychically holding the gate to Earth shut for 10,000 years. He's been leaning against this door with his mind, holding it shut. And if he stops doing that, the planet would get taken over by demons in the blink of an eye.
But isn't there also the argument that, well, not the argument, isn't there also the belief amongst some that if only they disconnected him and let him die, he could come back
The god.
Yeah,
as a god?
it's just
and
that's a
would
pretty
be
big,
able to...
pretty big coin flip to take when you're
Because if
not
you get it
100%
wrong-
sure that's going to work.
If you get it wrong, you don't have faster than light travel anymore. So all
Also,
of your little outposts across the galaxy.
You also
suddenly
wouldn't have the
cut off.
Earth anymore because it would
Yeah.
be destroyed.
Yeah.
What's so great about Earth? In most sci-fi, like, Earth is a shithole is like one of the biggest tropes.
Hey, guess
You know,
what?
like-
Yeah,
It
you're
is in
right.
this as well.
Yeah.
So one last point about Magnus. So after this, the Emperor, Daddy Emperor, was pretty miffed. So sent Leman Russ to have a word with him about this. Literally to just have a word with him about this. Tell him to stand down, basically. On the way, this is before Leman Russ knew about the Horus heresy. Horus got him and goes, the Emperor's changed his mind, Dad, right? And said he wants you to go and kill Magnus. And Leman Russ basically went, yep, all right, I'll go kill Magnus then.
Okay, Jenny.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but like it's Horus telling him this, and like Horus speaks with the voice of the Emperor. He is he's basically the Emperor's proxy.
Yeah.
Until he betrays him.
So the reason Horus is so important is he gets made to be the War Master. So the Emperor wants to go back to Earth and work on his special webway project that's really
She
difficult
tells
and fiddly.
no one
He should have
about.
fucking
So he
said
leaves
something.
Horus in charge, and yeah, like Horus has ultimate authority. He's basically running the show while the Emperor is off in his man cave doing webway stuff. It's there's like him saying you got to go do this. There's nothing really that suspicious about that. So Leman Russ had no reason not to believe him really.
And also, Leman Russ potentially has already wiped out 2 other chapters. So
yeah, he's probably quite up for it.
Yeah. Next, then we
So
have
that's why Magnus goes proper chaosy.
And he
Because
is
his brother turns
dedicated-
up, tries to kill him, murders all of his followers, and destroys the planet that he loves so much. And after that, he's a bit vulnerable to falling traitor.
and he to save himself, he does actually become a demon prince. And the Thousand Sons are dedicated to Tzeentch, which is usually to do with sorcery, trickery, deception, kind of stuff. And they also do a ritual afterwards.
Oh yeah, I forgot
to
about that.
stop
They're
this,
Dusty
because
Boys now, aren't they? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they had this affliction. They still had they were one of the chapters that also had an affliction that caused, because of the heavy psychic use, they sort of mutated and turned into spawn, essentially. And to stop this, they did this big, again, the captain, the first captain is really interesting. And he does this thing, and Magnus isn't happy about it. But what happens is Magnus breaks up, and you get the shards of Magnus. And one of the things that is lost, and one of the shards that is completely lost and is apparently on Terra, is also his kind. He was always kind and thoughtful, but he did actually care a lot about his sons. He was actually
He was a nice guy, wasn't he? Like Magnus was
actually
kind of
the
cool.
nicest one. But so this ritual kind of went wrong, and so though the Thousand Sons Space Marines don't have this
It didn't go
affliction, they are
wrong,
all
did it?
dust.
It's just like an example of don't trust the Chaos Gods. So the one they're aligned to is called Tzeentch, and that's the god that's all about constant change.
Trickery.
Yeah, they had this thing where they basically mutated all the time, and if they didn't do anything about it, they ended up just like a gibbering monster. So they're like, yeah, we've got to sort this out. They do this ritual, and Tzeentch is like, yeah, sure, mate, yeah, do this ritual, and none of your Space Marines will be affected by this flesh change ever again. And they're like, bonza. So they do the ritual, and they all turn into dust, sealed forever inside their suits of armor, with their tortured souls trapped in there with them.
So,
And
they
so
are
technically
just be glad.
speaking, they can't mutate anymore. So Ahriman sees this as a big win. But Magnus isn't terribly happy that he's turned all of his people into dust.
Worth mentioning, Ahriman once again more interesting than Magnus.
Yeah. If we've talked about Necrons, the Thousand Sons are reverse Necrons. Yeah. Necrons have a body but no soul, and the they've now metal suits with the Thousand Sons of Metal.
So
Suits.
most of their Space Marines now are literally just empty suits of armor filled with dust and a trapped, tortured soul.
So they need sorcerers
they kind
to
of
operate.
they've gone a bit like Automata. They've kind of lost their personalities and stuff. So they spend most of their time just stood in rows in a room in their spaceship, doing literally nothing until they're needed to be sent into a battle.
They've got soul, but they're not soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, they've got soul and they are soldiers. But yeah.
I've got. What was the other one? I've got
a ham, but I'm not a hamster.
I've got a badge, but I'm not a badger.
Yeah.
There you go.
I've got
okay,
an Ossel,
next-
but I'm not an Ostler.
Next up is the Lunar Wolves.
Lunar
Right.
Wolves.
Lunar Wolves are a really interesting chapter.
How many more have we got to go? Because I'm about to fall asleep.
47.
Fucking pussy.
Four more after this, all right?
I've
We're
got to
getting
get
through
up
them.
at 4 in the bloody morning, so
Well,
you can
so,
fucking
like-
man up.
There's not really much we can say about
I'm
this
up
one
at
without
around
sort of
4 or
giving
5
things
in the
away.
morning every morning. Like,
So am I. I
Man
get
up.
up when I want, except on Wednesdays,
I'm
when I get
fucking
rudely awakened by the dustman.
Ah,
Part life.
Harking back to a long lost era when the bins were collected every week.
Yeah.
they are collected every week, aren't they? Oh no, you mean
No,
yeah?
you're not your main bin. You get your recycling taken the other week.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yes. Anyway,
lazy.
Lunar Wolves did a lot of the work during the Horus Heresy. They've had a couple of name changes. Most recently, they're called the Black Legion.
Who are they?
They're the Lunar Wolves.
The Lunar
They're the
Wolves.
Lunar Wolves. They are one of the major chapters, legions in the Horus Heresy. They're just okay guys, you know?
I'm gonna say traitors.
You are absolutely right. Their Primarch is Horus. So yeah.
Yes.
So they were the best ones, weren't they? Like they were sort of the coolest. They were the best fighting. They were the sexiest. But yeah, they were also the traitoriest. It turned out. Most of them. Some of them tried not to go traitor and got
Garville
wiped out
Locum.
for their troubles. A few of them got away.
Garville and the other one.
Not Torgadon?
Yeah,
No,
Torgadon
Torgadon's... Is it Torgadon? Oh, no.
Torgadon
Yeah,
was
his
all
pal,
right as
Tor-
well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the main characters in the Horus Heresy books is a Lunar Wolves / Sons of Horus Space Marine who didn't want to go traitor and escapes, and then spends the rest of the time fighting against them. And there were a few like that, but yeah, most of them, they were more loyal to Horus than they were to the Empire as a whole. So they sort of went with when he did his big crazy.
Yeah.
That's mad.
It is mad, huh? Yeah. Lunar Wolves.
Horus,
They're kind of
what a
bad.
mad bastard.
He had the Riz, though. He had the Riz.
Did.
It did.
Yeah,
Like
that's
if you say like all the Primarchs are like, you know, Guilliman is the statesman, Angron had the empathy, Mortarion is the resilience, you know, Magnus is the scholar, Horus is the Riz.
Yeah.
That is his thing.
He was the politician. He's the statesman.
Yeah.
Well, that's more Guilliman.
Yeah, Gilliman,
So
he's the War Master.
Horus
His
is the
role-
one you'd most want to be friends with.
Yeah.
He's just like the nicest guy.
Yeah.
So his goal was to take over the Empire.
It's sort of complicated. He gets conned into it, basically.
Some daddy issues.
He is he's feeling a bit stressed about the Emperor fucking off back to Earth and leaving him in charge of the entirety of humanity and with responsibility for like conquering and realigning this long lost civilization that they've had. So he's a bit overwhelmed. He's got quite a big in tray, and he sort of gets conned into believing that the Emperor wants to take everything over and install himself as a god over everyone. And he basically he gets shown like a vision of the future, of like a horrific future 10,000 years from
that's
now,
something different.
when most of humanity is this downtrodden mass in thrall to some sort of horrific
that
religious.
No, that's a different
thing.
Primarch. He just gets shown the truth about the Chaos Gods.
Or always gets shown that, doesn't he?
No, that's someone different.
Is that someone different?
Yeah.
No, never mind then.
So like, but he gets shown the truth about the Chaos Gods and like, how they were involved in the creation of the Primarchs.
Doesn't he get stabbed?
He does get stabbed by a sword.
There's a magic sword involved. He kind of gets.
You know
Gets stabbed a
what?
few
I
times.
agree with Dan. Dan, who's watching this. Hello, Dan. It's kind of bullshit how it all unfolded. They could have done so much a better job with that. How this 675 book series unfolded probably could have been done a bit better.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
It is a bit murky, the whole why does Horus go traitor thing.
Yeah.
It's not the most clear cut.
No. Bollocks is what it is. So yeah, Horus Heresy. That he did that. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Next up, word bearers. Like just your average religious dudes. They're good guys, you know. They didn't start nothing.
So they're quite a scholarly chapter as well, and their Primarch and Magnus were quite good mates, but they're much more. Whereas he was like a scientist, these guys are more like literary, religious philosopher types.
And
Yeah.
they
Names?
went the word bearers.
Word bearers, because they bear unto you the word.
And Lorgar is their Primarch.
So when they're at the point where they were all going out and just like taking over worlds that had lost contact with humanity and going like, guys, we're all cool. There's this dude called the Emperor. He's in charge of everyone. We're all cool with that, right? Or we'll have to wipe you out. They were really good at it, and like the worlds they took over were like really enthusiastic members of the Imperium, and they sort of really
compliance.
joined up. They complied very well, but it was taking them a really long time. It's taking them like they would stay on a world for like 100 years. So the Emperor went to have a look into this, and it turned out they were like setting up churches and stuff. And he was like, "Guys, you got to knock this shit off."
So
But they would really like care for the worlds that they took over.
Yeah.
They would often take them over just by talking to people, so they didn't actually go in and massacre everybody.
But it took them a lot longer.
Whereas you send someone like the Space Wolves, and they would go down to the planet, kill everyone, go, "It's compliant. Nobody's complaining."
Word bearers would set up churches, and when the Emperor told them not to, they kind of carried on. They kind of carried on worshipping the god Emperor as a god. So
Then he got pissed off and burnt everything.
yeah, as a result, the Emperor then turns up, finds one of the planets, and burns all the churches on it.
Yeah.
Forces all of the word bearers to kneel in front of the Emperor, which is not something a god would do, you know. So, like, definitely not godlike at all.
So like, he literally forces that. He doesn't just say kneel. He looks at them and then psychically makes all of them go down on one knee
Yeah.
instantly against their will.
So, what do you reckon then, Tom?
Loyal.
No, man. They're a traitor. They're
are.
the first ones to turn traitor. They were like, fuck this guy. We want to worship a god. Let's go find another god.
But they were originally loyal, right?
Yeah.
They all were
And-
originally.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there you
mean-
go. So I was right. Cool.
Kind of.
I mean,
The joke is, though, that essentially how 40k has turned out is exactly what Lorgar would have wanted. Because now they worship,
He wrote 2 books. There's the Book of Lorgar and
Yeah.
the book which is
And 50
So
Shades of
what-
Grey.
and the book. No, that I was going to say that would have been Fulgrim, but it's too shit for Fulgrim to write.
Yeah.
And there's not the right kind of BDSM that Fulgrim likes. I was totally lost my track. Yeah, the other one was the book that essentially built up the Imperial cult as it is now. That was
The
what.
Maledictum. What's it fucking
The
called? What's it?
Lectitico Divinatus.
Divinat.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Did he write that?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was the basis of what the Imperial cult is because Lorgar wrote it. So Lorgar's essentially got what he's wanted.
I think he sort of wanted things to be a bit generally cheerier. But yeah, he thought the Emperor should be ruling over everybody as a god. Turns out 10,000 years later, that's exactly what's happened.
He's a bit of a pussy as well. He gets his before he goes the word bearers are Chaos Undivided. All the Chaos gods love him, and so he's stronger now because
they're not aligned to any one particular god. And is he a demon now, or is he just like a guy?
They've got this piece of shit chaplain as well called Erebus, who everyone fucking hates. And I'm going to say everyone fucking hates. Everyone hates Erebus.
Mm-hmm.
He's a prick.
It's all Erebus's fault, and he's a massive slimy arsehole.
Yeah.
Has anyone read End of the Death Part 3?
No.
There's some good
I know what you're talking about, though.
Stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it's Erebus who basically steals a chaos sword, chaos knife, causes all the problems for Horus, and then stabs Horus. It is Erebus who stabs. But there's also another guy called Corfarion.
Yeah.
And so they kind of got minor psychic. They are minor psychos.
And there's also another guy called Argel Tal, who's a fucking boss. And he gets fucking screwed over.
He's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's got a lame name, though.
Dwink Benson. Let's try and rattle through the last three, because let's be honest, they're not great. So that's not true. I know Dan loves the Alpha Legion. So next up, salamanders. They love fire. They're on a planet called Colchis. Is that where they're actually from? They're from Nocturne.
Nocturne, from, isn't it?
Yeah, their Primarch's called Vulcan.
Vulcan.
They love fire. They're all big.
That's quite funny.
And they are all they're jet black.
So Vulcan was the biggest Primarch, and they're all big lads.
Yeah.
They're also quite tanky.
Yeah.
But they like fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're Salamander's armies have loads of flamers and melters and incendiary grenades and that kind of stuff. And
Vulcan cannot die.
He's a perpetual.
Yeah, he's immortal, but he's the type of immortal where you can kill him, but then he'll come back to life somehow.
Yeah.
And that's happened.
That happens a lot of these ones for some reason.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of characters that and 7 days later he comes back, and 24 hours later after killing him,
when you've got
into
this
him.
This setting where everything takes place over thousands of years, you kind of have to have quite a lot of that.
Yeah.
They'll talk about just human characters.
It's just not very believable.
It's really hard to you can only have been alive for
not very believable.
50 or 60 years. That's nothing in this.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon then, Tom?
I think there's some plot holes.
Royalist traitor.
One or two.
Salamanders. What do you reckon?
They're loyal.
They are loyal, yeah, because they're actually one of the nicest Space Marine chapters. They'll help people, whereas other Space Marine chapters will not worry about people.
They also allow their Space Marines to keep in contact with their family.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So they're not.
They're generally a nice bunch of lads. Yeah. So when you're not on duty as a salamander, you can go back and live at home, even despite the fact that you are now 9 foot tall and presumably need to eat 50,000 calories a day just to maintain mass.
I was going to ask, do they have? I thought they could. I thought they didn't have to eat.
So it's one of those things that's not really gone into all that much. They naturally maintain their muscle level, so they don't. It's not like they would need to eat as much as a bodybuilder does, because that's someone who's putting on way more muscle than they naturally should have. So their body's trying to get rid of it all the time. That doesn't happen with a Space Marine. But also, they can survive months without food and all this sort of stuff. They can survive in a vacuum for quite a while. Things like that. They're
pretty H-core, if you don't mind me saying.
They are. But it doesn't quite marry up to the rules in game. Broadly, reading the books, 2 or 3 Space Marines should be able to handle an army of guardsmen. Yeah. Whereas obviously that doesn't actually work out to a very fun game. So
it depends who's writing the book as well.
They're all sort of leveled out a bit in the actual tabletop rules.
Okay, moving on then. Raven Guard. Corvus Corax is their Primarch.
Whose name means Raven.
Yeah, it does, yep.
Oh, Raven Crow.
Yeah.
Just to really hammer home that
they are
that name.
All about
super
stealth, and a little bit of fast attack, but they're all about swooping in there stealthily in their jetpacks.
They're the tactical Space Marines. They're
Yeah.
the ones that would show up with like infrared scopes and extended magazines and carabiners all over them and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They're trying to
Sound like
hide
my
their...
kind of
They're,
guys
trying
they're
to
the
hide
sort
their
of pricks that
asses.
would turn up at the paintball range with all their own gear,
with all their
and
own
like
stuff.
a ghillie
Yeah.
suit or something, and just spend
Corvus
the day ruining
Corax as
everyone
well
else's fun.
is, as Duncan said, the most emo of the Primarchs. He is currently holed up in the warp outside Lorgar. I've just given away who they are, basically, but yeah. Oh, do you reckon loyal or traitor, Tom?
So what, they're hiding outside the warp?
They're hiding in the
So
warp.
their Primarch is
Oh,
currently
so they're
in the warp,
traitors.
No.
in the form of a giant bird.
Yeah, so he's become
Because
a
he-
giant raven now.
Because he almost killed Lorgar
Yeah.
at the drop site massacre.
Yeah.
And
You're saying that
own-
name as though it's meant to have any meaning to me whatsoever.
Lorgar's...
Come on, man, Lorgar.
Word bearers, man.
We've just talked about Lorgar like 2 Primarchs ago.
I know, I was sort of tuning in and out.
Yeah, we can tell.
Okay, Raven Guard, all about espionage. They all wear in just jet black uniforms. They love...
Ironically, also about bringing down tyranny, but
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's a big thing of theirs. Yeah.
they are essentially working for tyranny.
Oh, my
Lastly-
t-shirt's riding up.
The
They
last
are
one,
pretty cool.
Alpha Legion.
I'm
spies.
Alfarius.
Yeah, I'm Alfarius. They
No, I'm
they-
Alfarius.
They all say they're Alfarius. They have 2 Primarchs, Alfarius and Amagon,
Who are twins,
who are twins.
and everyone
Yeah.
thinks there's only one of them.
But everyone says they're Alfarius.
Their symbol is the Hydra.
Yeah.
They are the last Legion, and they were the last Primarchs to be found.
Yeah.
And they are considered the smartest,
Yeah.
the most pragmatic, the smartest. They also practice like philosophy. They really do thought experiments, so they could even see the flaw in what the Emperor was aiming for, but they still went along with it because they still believed in what it was. But they could say, seeking this such utopia is not possible, and all it means is there will be endless war. But they still do it, and their method is victory at any cost. The end justifies the means, so they actually used a hell of a lot of human operatives.
Yeah, so they're the sneaky motherfuckers. They're all about like spies and plans within plans and betrayals and sabotage and like
And
they'll have like sleeper agents hibernating buried beneath the surface of planets for hundreds of years and things like that to pop up when they're needed and
I like
all
that.
sorts of
That's
crazy
pretty
shenanigans.
cool.
They're
And
pretty,
one of
they're
them-
really cool. They're also, I mean, they get a little bit annoying in the literature because they just go, "Aha!" as I have planned all along, all the fucking time. But
apart from in
they're
their
pretty cool.
first book, in the first book they feature in, they don't do that. But
they're fucking awesome.
they're
That book's
one
amazing.
of their it's good. One of their mottos is for the Emperor. It's not their only one, but one of their mottos is for the Emperor.
Loyalist
So-
traits, Tom.
Loyalist.
Nah, traitor.
Oh,
But
man.
it's
I'm Alfarius.
questionable. Like the on running thing is that Dark Angels are loyalist but might be traitor, and then the 20th Legion, the Alpha Legion, are traitor but might be loyalist.
So really, at the moment, they're in it for themselves.
Yeah.
So they are officially marked up as a traitor legion.
Yeah.
But they're such like 4D chess motherfuckers that it could have been that this is just a long ploy and they're actually going to be the ones that save everybody.
Because they were shown the truth.
They never
They were
really went like full traitor. They weren't really a huge part of Horus's fight. They sort of did some stuff that helped him, but then they also did some stuff that hindered him. Like it's very unclear really whose side they're on. So you play them as traitors at the moment. They're certainly not like considered friendly by the Imperium, but yeah, they are a big old question mark.
They were
Just to-
shown that the truth of like if the Imperium, to save the galaxy, they had to let Horus had to win, and otherwise chaos wins. And so they're shown the thing is they're shown the truth about chaos and everything, of how the heresy will turn out, especially if the Emperor succeeds. And they believe that the Emperor wouldn't want Chaos to win because they know about Chaos, but they don't know everything about Chaos. And so it's felt that actually the Emperor wouldn't want Chaos to win. So that's why they go for the Emperor. But there are some great, just look up Alpha Legion and Star Wars, and there's some very funny things, like the Alpha Legion popping up as Darth Vader going, "Word up, who wants some dark side?"
Yeah, they're super sneaky bastards, basically. To wrap things up, Jack says they also live on Death World with giant lizards. That's the salamanders. That's why they're called the salamanders. Alpha Legion are the best Legion, Dan says. Legion is one of the best Horus Heresy era books. It really is. I personally
it is really good. It's mainly good for the what are they called? The
First Heretics better as well, I think.
Geno 5.2.
The Geno 5.2.
They're really
great.
cool. All their stuff's really good. And it's got
but
it's got John Grammaticus in it, who I quite like.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it, Tom. Don't worry, we're done. Okay.
Sorry, I suddenly started fading about 15 minutes
if you
ago.
could just quickly rattle off all the legions in order of your personal preference.
Do you have a favourite, Tom? That is worth.
So I really still go back to the White Scars.
Yeah,
they are fucking cool.
I think they're really cool. And all the models are awesome as well. I love the bikes.
They're really cool. They're nice. They're good looking.
Yeah. This guy.
Yeah, I'm really tempted to get a little White Scar.
They are just
They've got the fourth best hair.
They are a fucking bastard to paint.
White is not as difficult to paint as it used to be.
No, it's not.
I can highly recommend the Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White. That is an
and while we're doing that,
excellent white paint.
I've got the Vallejo grey white as like an under like coat, and then the cold white is apparently the whitest white.
Don't get the Games Workshop ones. They are shite.
They're not good. Yeah,
and I'm also not a fan of the Army Painter matte white. It's very chalky.
No, Army Painters do some good stuff, but that's not one of them.
Yeah.
Corvax White from Sistel is pretty good.
Yeah, I've been using that. It's fine.
It's not white. It's grey. I quite like Corax White. So if you to do a White Scar, if you painted them with a base of Corax White, shaded it with what's it called there? The stuff that's basically blue, apothecary whites, to get like some nice sort of blue tinted shadows, and then highlighted with Bold Titanium White. That would look pretty good.
Who does the Bold Titanium White?
Pro Acryl. Or what Monument Hobbies make it, but Pro Acryl is the paint range. They're really good. They're a lot thinner than Citadel paints, like out the bottle, and the coverage is really good.
Then shade and highlight. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, shade highlight, edge highlights.
So there you go. Your homework for next time is to paint yourself up a White Scar.
What, in a week?
I'll tell you what, I've got some White Scars that need painting. You can help me paint mine if you want.
I would. Do you know what? I would genuinely love to sit in a room with you painting.
Yeah.
And chatting.
I mean, that feels very doable. It also feels like the sort of admin that we should probably take off the live broadcast part of the evening. Yeah, I would very much like to do that.
Yeah.
I would love to sit around a table in a cramped office, occasionally doing it and painting stuff.
Well, we can
By
go
doing
to,
it, you mean what?
You know what I mean.
We can go to Darkfire and do that.
Can, yeah. Sit around there.
What about the doing it?
They frown upon that, to be fair, Tom. Yeah,
they know who their audience is.
Maybe not in public. Yeah. I'm really, really tempted to say, this is live management, but I'm really tempted to take. I think Binny and Jolie would really enjoy Warhammer World because the miniatures are painted so amazing. I really want to take them up there. I really want to go
again. With a spay can. Doing it any other way just makes it making it hard on yourself. Yeah. Right, let's wrap this up, Tom.
Let's wrap this up. So that was a podcast that we did just now about the Space Marine Legions from 1 to 20, and it was my job to work out whether they were loyalists or traitors. And I think my hit rate was maybe under 50%. I got right, I think.
Near enough 50%, I would say.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think that might be being a little kind to me. So bless you, bless your heart. If you want to tell us your favourite Space Marine Legion, hit us up on social media. Just go to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter using the handle at TMTOOH. And if you head to our Instagram, you will find in the bio a link to our Discord server, where if you want to get involved in some conversations there's plenty going on, and you can also tell us what your favourite Space Marine Legion is there as well.
Yep. Don't get it wrong.
There's very little else for me to say apart from, Dan, is there anything podcasty worthy mentioning?
Probably should be, but nothing at the moment, no.
Fair dues. Well, it's all right. It's all good. We've got plenty of stuff coming out, loads of material on YouTube. Do remember, by the way, you can watch all of our live streams on the live tab of our YouTube channel. If you type in and indeed you have to. If you type in TMTOOH into the search field on YouTube, you will see our little logo, which is like a purple gamepad in the middle of a... It's purple, isn't it? In the middle of a white circle.
You sound like one of those magazines you get in supermarkets explaining how to iPad for grandparents.
No, I'm just saying that if you type in TMTOOH, there a load of random stuff comes up, but I do believe our icon is at the top of that page.
You guys didn't pick a very SEO optimized name for the podcast because there's a song
you fucking
of
do
that
it then.
name.
Yeah, you SEO it then, Russ. Come on. You know how plugs work. You must know how SEO works. Come on. Anyway, yeah, cool. With all that said and done, only the goodbyes left to do. Russ, goodbye.
Laters.
Dan, goodbye.
Bye, handies.
Duncan, goodbye.
Bye, handies.
And it's goodbye from me, Tom. Goodbye to the handies. And on that note, let's cue the music.